So Spain through to the next round after drama in Copenhagen. Extra time required after Croatia scored 2 goals in 7 minutes to take the game to extra time. 3-3 at full time. Spain came through though, and well, we're all watching what's happening in Bucharest with interest. Second half has just started. France, the world champions, after a fairly poor 45 minutes, you would have to say, are 1-0 down to Switzerland, and Pat Nevin is with us. Hi, Pat.
Hi there. How are you doing? We've been watching the French, and has anyone told them it's knockout stages now? They've not started. Like, they've kind of passing about nicely and neatly. It's as if they've thought, do you know what, Gaffer? We don't like that system, so we're not really going to push it. Honestly, there was no urgency, was there, in the first half? Maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes, but after that, it was really dull. Weird.
Well, I've been here half watching, but really talking to guests about everything from the Lions to Gaelic games. So I haven't really seen it all that much, or I don't have a great sense of it. So I know they had 3 at the back, which was a move. Was that tactical or injury enforced, or what was your read on that? I
think it's partially injury enforced as well because of the fullbacks' problems. But they obviously realised it was a mistake and it wasn't working. So they changed it to 4 at the back after about 25-ish minutes, maybe a little bit more than that. So at least he spotted what the problem is. But it didn't have much of an effect on him. But as soon as they've started the second half now, they look more up for it, a little bit more freedom to go forward. There's spaces to run into as well. But they don't have a choice. They couldn't play that way for the rest of the game because Switzerland, actually, they were just cruising. Honestly, it's really surprising considering those of us who feel the French should be favourites for this. You're thinking, come on, at least go out with a bit of a battle. I think they will. They should do better in the second half here, but it's sometimes too hard to get through those gears when you've started in the old low gear and you have to push it up. But we shall see if they're able to do that. Certainly, they've got to push Pogba on a bit. They brought Kingsley Coman on for Longley, which is really obvious and a certainty that they had to do that. But considering you do get surprises in these competitions, and we've already seen that with the Dutch, they can't muck about now. And of course, they take a chance now because if they go a second goal down, that's going to be a hard one to come back from because they've not made that many chances yet.
They have flattered to deceive thus far, France. I mean, we're all still sticking with them as favourites, or those of us who picked France beforehand as favourites just because of the credit they have in the bank, I suppose, and the catalogue of players they have. But like, you wouldn't, if you were seeing them for the first time and didn't know who the players were, you wouldn't have said, oh, there's the team.
Absolutely not so far. But you're waiting for the big names to really come to the fore. Pogba's had some good games so far.
Yes.
But but not everyone's actually getting there. And it's really surprising that Mbappe started the first half, looked as if he was on fire. And a couple of errors and ball didn't roll the way he wanted. And then he was turning around looking at everybody else saying, what's the problem? It's not time for Gallic shrugs. It's time for...
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's all get together as a unit, as a team now. And they're capable of doing it. But obviously they're capable of doing it. But the life that you've got, a few of the Swiss, because of what's happened so far, that's giving you an extra couple of yards in their step. And they are a little bit dangerous going forward, particularly on the right-hand side. So, like a lot of these games, it's taken off now, hasn't it? We know it's taken off now, this competition. It's been waiting to go. But the French have been saying that...
Pat, you mentioned the right-hand side. You're probably behind me. You're about to see the Swiss cut them open down the right-hand side, and the ball is squared, and France got very lucky it didn't fall to the swinging boot of a Swiss player. So, as you said, second goal is curtains, and even now, like, clock becomes the friend of Switzerland very quickly. So,
again, pace that they've got,
they were ripped
on the right-hand side. They can't stop that pace.
Ripped open there.
And it's... if you're going to be slightly slack about it, they can happen. I mean, they're no mugs, the Swiss. They're actually a pretty decent team, the Swiss. So I must admit, I'm seriously disappointed with the way that they've been so far. But it's one of those ones, you're not going to write anyone off, and particularly after this afternoon, what's happened. By the way, I'm now just seeing that chance there. And of course, had they been a half a yard behind them, anyway.
And as they cut them open on the right-hand side there, it wasn't like the French body language early doors became suddenly very frantic and alive to the danger. There was a degree of, you've come inside and you've got an overlap. Like, there was a degree of, I don't know, flatness. So we'll see. This is really interesting. I just hadn't anticipated this at all, because the Swiss hadn't been that impressive in their group stages, I would put it to you. Okay.
Yeah, but they're stuffy, aren't they? They are stuffy. They've always kind of been stuffy. And actually, it doesn't matter what Swiss side you talk about through the years. Played against them a couple of times. Well, actually, only once I played against them. I was on the bench all the time.
Yeah. And
you never thought they were. Remember, Chapuisat was a decent player, but the rest of me thinking, well, they're okay, but they're just kind of hard to beat, and they're good, steady professionals that, in the end, just won't give you anything for free. So they're not doing it. They're not giving anything for free. And the man that must be the fear is Mbolo. I mean, because I don't know if you've seen early in the game, he tried a cross. Honestly, it was so dangerous to the second tier because it was dreadful. However, let him run, and he's unbelievable. He's like Mbappe-like in his pace when he goes running. And if you're against that, that's all right. You've got the anchors on slightly, certainly on that left-hand side. So I don't know how much they're going to get coming from the left-hand side, the French, but. It's an intriguing one. There's been loads of intriguing, surprising ones. And the first goal completely changes every single game here to an extraordinary amount. And I think it's only 3 games so far out of the 40 where teams have lost the first goal and come back to win it. So it tells you that there's a big deal. And one of them was this afternoon anyway. So it's a big old deal. It's a hard one for them. But, you know, the chances that have fallen have been very, very few and far between for the French, which is... You know, if they were hanging on, the Swiss, you'd get it, but they're not hanging on by their fingernails. Not so far, anyway.
No, far from it. So I want to talk to you about the game this afternoon. Croatia 3, Spain 5, after extra time. As you mentioned, Unai Simon, a catastrophe in the Spanish goal. And I knew this was going to happen. This happened. We did a football show the other evening, which frankly, Pat, was a disaster because there were goals flying in left, right and centre. And I interrupted Damien Delaney 1,000 times. The referee has run to the touchline to check if the French have given away a penalty here. Now, it looks to me like it might just be on the line. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling your suspense here. But
to be honest, it was a shout just a moment before for Mbappe's penalty, wasn't it?
There was, yeah. But the Swiss have been awarded a penalty. It was down the French left-hand side. I'm presuming it was Pavard who slid in. And this is like right on the line. You know the way it's line as... in the box. So, I mean, the foul happens. I'd be interested when you see it in a second. The foul happens right on the line. And so referee turned away and signalled penalty and started sprinting towards the French box. And with 54 minutes on the clock, this is an unbelievable chance for the Swiss.
The slight giveaway is that there's all that white dust all coming up as Pavard dives in. I mean, it's a tiny bit of a giveaway, that. And it's one of those ones where he's asked on a stick-on penalty. There's no even, I don't think there's even an argument about that.
Yeah.
But the classic is Pavard was found wanting in the game against Hungary, wasn't he? He found himself getting wrong side. He's just done it again.
Well, and you would say, by the way, this was all done really quickly. This was VAR at its best, word in the referee's ear. He went over, he saw it, he said, yep, that's a penalty. So it's Ricardo Rodriguez, who is one of the centre-backs here for Switzerland, standing over the ball, a left footer. 54 minutes on the clock. I know, here he goes. He looks like he's going to smash it. He doesn't smash it. He tries to place it, and Hugo Lloris dives the right way and saves the penalty. Lloris goes to his right. It was low. It was side-footed. It wasn't the most violent of strikes. Definitely not as bad as certain people's penalties, Pat. Don't worry before someone texts in.
I'm safe.
He looked for all the world like he was going to be a Yapstam central defender and smack it with the left foot. Instead, he opened out his left foot, put it low. Lloris gets a right hand to it. I mean, France, wake up. Wake up, France.
And of course, classically, that is the thing that will wake them up. It should wake them up because they must all know now to a man that they have been given the biggest lifeline. I mean, we saw it this afternoon with the 5-3 game. You know, you can come back from 2 goals.
Yeah.
But it's so unusual, particularly at championships and particularly this late in the game. But as I say, yep, the Croatians done it as well. And it wasn't a dreadful penalty, but he's got to put more power on it. And if you get, in the end these days, if you don't put it right in the corner and hit the actual side netting, it won't go in because if the keeper goes the right way, he will save it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way they will save it. And it wasn't quite in the corner, was it? It was just, in fact, it's a good save. It's not a brilliant save. It's a good save, isn't it? But
I think so. I think he needed Lloris to dive the wrong way there. So Croatia 3, Spain 5, 3-3 after full time. As you said, Croatia took the lead without even having a shot on target in the first half. They were 1-0 up at half time. One of the truly great, horrific own goals. What did you make of Spain and the way they went about their business, Pat?
Honestly, they confused the life out of me.
Right. Right.
Do you know, I was actually watching TV and I heard Graham Souness explaining all the things that were wrong about them, and they just scored 5 goals for the second game in a row. And you're thinking, yeah, but I get it, Graham. I know, I absolutely get it. It doesn't look as if, everything's in place. Now, I kind of like teams like that anyway, that are a bit all over the place, as it were. But it didn't seem controlled. And the fact that they're so reliant on the balls going up to Morata, he's getting fouled or is going down for fouls all the time. It seems to be a big part of their game. But, they seem to hold the ball as well as just about anyone else. I mean, they hold the ball brilliantly. And considering the Croatians are exceptionally good at holding the ball, and they actually kept that. And they created quite a few chances. So you can't really argue too much about them. Just watching that chance that you've seen a moment ago where Mbappe putting it by the post, he's getting a little bit more space now. But for the Spanish, you're not jumping up and down saying they're going to win this, are you? They've just scored 5 in 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
But you're not thinking you're going to win this, because you can see all the weaknesses. You can see the weaknesses at centre-back. You can see that Morata, for all the fact that he is a front man, it's kind of weird. Maybe like many of us, I'm slightly biased about having watched him back at Chelsea and thinking, no, come on, stand up now and again. It would really help. And he's got that. But the goal he scored was absolutely fantastic. Technically, they were good to look better with Busquets in there. And oddly enough, Pedri was much, much better. By the way, they are. I take it you are ahead of me here.
Yes, I didn't want to interrupt you because it will just make a mess of the whole thing. The French have equalised. Mbappe and Benzema collaborating.
A typical Benzema goal, isn't it?
You can describe it. The way the ball is behind Benzema and he manages to flick it in front of himself is just fantastic.
I mean, if you go through the players in the world, 1-on-1 with a keeper, and even if the ball's arriving at a bad area, there's kind of not that many better than him as a classic centre forward into that sort of position.
Yeah.
But just before that, obviously the chance that Mbappe had was a big difference, and it is classic. It's the old one. I mean, everyone's writing it down right now, and it is saying exactly. I mean, how did they get that out of his feet?
It's
the ball's
amazing.
Behind his left foot.
Yeah.
And he's allowed to drag it right. Do you know, 95% of players, I'm saying, you didn't mean that.
Yeah.
And I know that he did.
It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And hey, Pat, keep watching, because you're about to see an even better Benzema goal here. Not so much because of what he did, but just the play that you're about to see from France. It's like they said, right, scored one, let's score another quick and get this thing done, because I'm not running around for the next half hour. It's just, it's a brilliant goal. Griezmann to the fore, and Benzema has nodded it into an empty net. So 60 minutes on the clock, literally from having a penalty to go 2-0 up. The Swiss fans, with their faces painted red, are suddenly looking very glum because they are 2-1 down. And
do you know how long that is between the 2 goals?
Not long.
2 sentences.
Yeah. Well, do you know it is? It's Pogba winning the ball and working really hard to win the ball from a Swiss player in the Swiss half, and then it's French intricacy, lovely 1-2, Griezmann to the fore of that, and ball falls to Benzema, who nods home. But Pat, Pogba working really hard, making damn sure to win a ball. It's the kind of moment with Man United with Pogba where he can sometimes just stand there and say, ball, the play's kind of gone by me and nothing I could do, kind of a moment.
The purest Man United fans know football well, and they will say, no, he wasn't doing that often enough.
No.
And it was a bit of a stroll about all the time. People who love Pogba and can't see any wrong in him will say, I told you so. It's not that at all. If he puts it in, the caveat is always there. It's never not there. He is among the best in the business, if that attitude is right from the start. And that's a brilliant, beautiful piece there. I'm just having a look at it, and it isn't offside, by the way. I'm sure they've started the game again yet. But see the little back flicks that they're doing just now? Was that the Mbappe one just there for the goal? But the little back flicks, Griezmann did one just a few moments before the end of the first half, which completely wrong-footed about 3 players.
Yeah.
And it is actually lovely to see how many of them are doing that at the moment, and they're working, and the 3D vision they've got is fantastic.
It is, yeah. So on Spain, they have what you would have to say is a very tidy midfield. Eric Garcia was taken off, and he was at fault badly for one particular moment. I'm not sure did it result in a goal or not, but he was definitely caught out very badly. But Pedri, who by the way covers more ground than anyone, it looks like he's not doing all that much, but he's bobbing around. Pedri, Busquets and Koke, that looks like a very tidy midfield three. And then Morata, like, is it not even the case the jury is out, the jury is in, it just ain't going to happen really, despite his brilliant goal today?
Yeah, but I mean, many people will say that he held the ball up or didn't hold it but got fouls.
Yeah.
And that's kind of his job to do that. There are those who would argue that he's not a big, because he's quite tall, you think, oh, he's a big, stick the nut in the head, the ball centre forward, but he's not that either.
Yeah.
But he does drop off and he does find little spaces and he does, link up the play quite well. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Remember, again, I was watching all that time at Chelsea. Technical play was fine. Technical movement was always brilliant. I mean, always brilliant. But it was the big but. The big but was, well, what's the percentage of your goals that you're putting away? And it doesn't actually look all that different now. And I'm thinking of the goals today. He scored that one. Was he greatly involved in the others? I'm trying to remember. Not that many, really. So, you almost want more than that from, I was going to say number 9. He's wearing number 7 just now. But you want more than that from the guy who's going to be up front if your team's going to win the Euros. But it's not beyond them. It's absolutely not beyond them. And it's purely because they're technically great. They're holding the ball. The midfield's very good. But they're a team you could pick holes in all over the place.
Yeah.
But they've just got 10 goals in 2 games. So be careful with that. Be absolutely careful with that.
And I was very happy for Morata because I saw they played a game in, I don't know where it was in Spain, maybe it was Seville, but his wife and partner turned up to the game with Morata jerseys. And I'm not sure if fellow fans knew who they were, but the abuse they were getting for just having the temerity to wear Morata jerseys was terrible, and he was very upset, and he's leaving his phone outside of his bedroom because the abuse he's getting is non-stop. So like the human side of it is just terrible when you stop and remember it's football. Before the clock comes against us, Belgium 1, Portugal 0. So first half tight and tactical, second half just bizarre and like a bit wild. It seemed like Belgium were just wrecked. Like I can't think it was their tactic, Pat, to come out and say let's sit back for 45 minutes here. Yeah,
the other side of it is, remember they've got some players who, although I thought Eden Hazard actually put in a shift, so did his brother, obviously getting the winner, but they've got a number of players that are playing with injuries. Now, there's no doubt Hazard is playing with injuries, and that will affect you. De Bruyne has now obviously got a bit of an injury as well, so that makes a big difference to them. You have to remember Witsel, I'm chasing everything, gone all over the place. But he's just back from a long injury. So you kind of almost forget it because the big names are out there. But they're kind of human beings too. And, the tiredness, the injuries, getting more injuries on top of it all. Yeah, they do. They get a little bit knackered. And certainly, classically, Portugal, they're a very good team, and they've got strength and depth. And they can make changes where I'm not sure many of the changes weaken them in any way whatsoever. They just add more quality. But then they add legs as well.
Did you have a nagging sense that the goal wasn't going to come for Portugal for some reason?
I never really think that when Ronaldo's on a field.
Sure.
Because you can get a penalty. I kept on thinking that it was classically with the Portuguese national team, and they do this, and I shout at me if you like for Portuguese, it doesn't matter, it's just the way it is. They throw themselves to the ground quite a lot, and they get a lot of free kicks that aren't free kicks. Now, they're not the only nation that does that. There's plenty more, but there is a tendency to do that with some of the players. And my thoughts were, if they get in the right position in a penalty, they could get a penalty kick, and if they get a penalty kick, they'll score it because Ronaldo will take it.
Yeah.
So I suspect that was my biggest thought. But they came close.
Sure, I know. I don't even know why I'm saying it. I like they hit the post with João Felix, and Jota got under one as well. I just had this sense it wasn't going to happen. More so maybe out of an intuition of one of those nights as opposed to any great logic.
Yeah, you can have that sometimes, but how many times have you got that wrong?
With Ronaldo nights. A lot, yeah.
Usually one of those nights it's going to be a 0-0 and ends up 5-3. But you're right, it can feel like that. But in this championships, I'm loving the fact that because it's quite clear now, it's knockout and it's mental.
Yeah.
Love the tactical stuff that is just changing much more quickly in the group stages. All the tactical things, just adapt all the time. That's why you love international football when it's in knockout stages, because they have to move, they have to adapt. And I feel sorry for the managers because unlike domestic managers, you do it 1 week to the next week to the next week. You get 3 games in a week. You can slowly but surely. All they do the same amount of changes, but it's all pushed into this wee tiny area, tiny little area of a very short time. And you find yourself, remember playing in an international tournament, and you'd watch the manager making 4 tactical changes in a half, and they just don't generally do. And I don't mean personnel changes. I mean complete tactical adaptations to the whole thing. To block deep or whatever, or to change a 3 to a 5 or to a 4, whatever. So, but you're seeing it all the time now, and you're seeing it quickly, and it's all added to on top of the fact that they're all knackered as well because of the end of this mad season. I honestly do not bet against some more games with 5s and 6 goals in it, because the closer you get here, the more tired they all get. Well,
I've definitely got into a habit at the moment of watching the first half, and I like looking at the tactics and seeing how they're going about their business, because there's such. I find it really interesting at the moment. It's not like everyone's playing 4-3-3 or something. Like there's such an array of formations. It's really kind of interesting, and I'm sure you would know instantly how a 3-5-2 goes up against a 4-3-3. But I'm a few minutes behind you, I suspect, in figuring all that kind of stuff out. So I've enjoyed that. But then the second half just turns into wildness. There's a degree of like who's less tired about the second half, which is kind of
and you love it. You absolutely love it. And if any purist out there gets fed up with it and doesn't want to see that at all, but it's a basketball game after all.
Well, this is brilliant. This one's opened. Something I wanted to ask you, because I think you'd have a good sense of this as a player who was probably targeted. On the De Bruyne front, if once is unfortunate and twice is careless with Rudiger and with the Paulinho tackle last night, is there anything more deliberate going on than just a bit of a coincidence and these things kind of happen and neither moment was especially egregious? Or do you think the likes of a Rudiger, the likes of Paulinho in these split-second moments are aware, well, this is De Bruyne I'm hitting here, this isn't Witsel, so I'll do a bit less to get out of the way type thing?
I've yet to have played for a team where you don't say beforehand, there's their best player, if you can leave one on him, leave one on him.
And you don't think that's changed in 2021?
No, I think if you can and you can get away with it, obviously I'm not talking about me, who's completely incapable of doing that, whether I wanted to or not.
Pat, go out there and take out Graham Souness.
I know, I can remember I 3 times in my career tried to take people out, and trust me, I ended up getting injured. Yeah. So I stopped doing that after a while, and that was just retaliation. But in reality, that's just the way. And to be honest, being sometimes a player who was the one who was getting taken out, I knew it was happening. Yeah. And I knew, right, okay, I am the target here. If that late tackle doesn't get the ball and manages to kind of clean me out, I know that's been suggested early on. Yes. And you're right, it was much, much easier back then. You have to be a lot cuter about it now, I suspect, to the degree of it's not provable. So you can't say it's been done. You have to be. In the Champions League final, Rudiger doing that to De Bruyne, I don't think you can prove that he meant it.
No.
You can say that you think he did. I don't think you can prove. What was it, the classic one? Oh, God. Who done Salah? I can't remember who done it.
It was Ramos.
Ramos, right. And you just think people going, that was deliberate or whatever. And you're thinking, no, it wasn't. How can you tell? You don't know. In those situations, you absolutely don't know. And but if it's on your mind to say that it was absolutely deliberate, you'll say it. By the way, that was nearly the second bizarre one goal. I've just seen it here. If you'd have had 2 of them in a day, that would have been hilarious. Yeah. Widmer, I think, is a wee bit relieved about that. That could have actually maybe been beaten Pedri's one. But yeah, look, it happens. There's no way that you say that they don't leave a bit on if they can possibly do that. And I watched Rudiger do the same against Hazard in the first game. Real Madrid played at Stamford Bridge in that Champions League semi-final. And again, Hazard just didn't come back. And it can work. That's the thing. That's why they do it.
I guess, it's not Pele in 1966. It's that bit more subtle now.
A bit more subtle.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it to certain types of player. Funnily enough, De Bruyne is hard to do it to because he's a robust individual, and he's strong a lot of the time himself. But there's nothing you can do about a crack in the face or whatever. But there's players to some degree, they shrug and you almost accept it. And I have to say, maybe other people didn't think the same way. Most of the time I felt if I didn't manage to ride it, see it coming, cope with it, I kind of half blame myself.
Yeah.
I kind of thought, well, I should be better. I should know this. I should see that. I should be able to cope with this. And certainly you should be able to get somebody booked it quite early on. And that stops him doing it as much as anything else if he is your man-to-man marker.
I know nobody was tipping the Dutch to win the tournament, but we did get ourselves a good old-fashioned shock, I suppose, with the Czech Republic beating them. If you're on Matthias de Ligt's team and he has that initial ball bounces and he's in trouble, do you want him to let Patrick Schick go and take his chances, or are you quite happy for him to do what he did?
Never do what he did, ever.
Okay.
No, 1-0 up, we have a minute to do it, go, you can do that. But other than that, you don't do that.
Right.
Or 5 minutes to go, or whatever, you do that. You don't do that at any other time, because 10 men, a decent level is a nightmare.
Right.
It's an absolute nuts nightmare. So, no, there is no excuse for that. That's a massive, massive defensive mistake. In fact, there's plenty of people who say, I will not take the goal, we'll take the sender off. There's, early-ish in the game, because you then can control it. Especially, the Czechs aren't a bad side. Czechs are a decent side. I've watched plenty of them. They looked a wee bit stuffy against Scotland the 2 games previously. They're a decent enough side. And there's not that many teams in this tournament that you can actually play 10 against 11 in a 10-minute go out and win. So it is, you don't do that. It was a mistake. It was a really bad mistake. Let it go. Let them score. By the way, you still got to beat the keeper.
Yes.
That's what the keeper's there for.
Yeah.
So you don't do that.
One last one before you go. The Danes. They came and hockeyed us one time in Dublin 5-1. We don't like to speak about it too often. So we knew a long way out. Like, they've got goals in them, and they're a good side. They now will play the Czechs, and then they'll be in semi-final potentially, and have momentum and plenty of other things besides. How seriously are you taking Denmark now?
Absolutely. No, completely seriously. One of the things, again, the history of this competition tells you, see if you're quite good at stopping goals going in and you've got a decent defensive line, you're kind of halfway there. I mean, Schmeichel's a very, very good keeper. Christensen's scoring goals now. What? Didn't see that one. Kjær and Vestergaard. I mean, in Højbjerg, the job he's done last season. So right in the midst of that, you've got 4 or 5 of them as a core who, it almost doesn't matter who you play against, they're going to be hard to score against. They're really going to be hard to score against. And they've added that wee bit of quality up front. I mean, I still don't think a brilliant team up front, but again, work rate's fantastic. As a group, they work incredibly hard. You see, if they hit the right form and they get sort of players like we call them Brathwaite or Braithwaite. I've heard both. Brathwaite, I think we're going for at the moment. But they're perfectly capable of scoring from lots of different areas. But I think it's that back line with Højbjerg in front of them. I think that's hard. I think that's really hard. You don't get easy goals against them. And if you don't give easy goals away, as the Greeks taught us, and I don't mean the philosophers, I mean the Greek football team.
The ancient Greeks.
Yes. Well, it's a few years ago now. They absolutely can go miles in a tournament. So I don't think it's not even a surprise now. Okay. The biggest surprise is they thought they were so dependent on Eriksson. And it turns out, it would be great to have him. He'd be a brilliant guy to bring on if they could do it. They could have done that. But, the rest of the team now just actually absolutely knows what it is now. And it's, to be honest, they're a really good team. I enjoy watching them because they've got a real spirit about them. They've got some decent quality players to bring on as well.
Listen, our time is over. Oh, Pogba. Oh, dear. Pat. Right, okay. Pat, you're going to enjoy this. You're going to enjoy this.
I'll wait a minute for it. And as it builds up to it, I'll have a quick word to you. I've got the big one tomorrow. Go on. Sweden, Ukraine.
Oh, wow. All eyes. Are you nervous?
Well, it's at Hampden Park, so obviously that's the one I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to go to it and make the best out of it. And to be honest, it's a tough one to absolutely call. And what is tough is to get anyone even vaguely interested.
Yeah, no, I zoned out there as you were talking. Because to be fair, Pogba, and maybe the goal deserves it, he's the level of choreography in his celebration, it's still going on. He's still doing different types of dances now. It's like he's working them all in. He wants as many gifts as possible. It's not a million miles, Pat, off the shot that Rui Patricio saved the other evening, except this is unsavable. The keeper dives, sees it early, the keeper knows what's happening, the keeper tries to get to it, the keeper's at full stretch. This is unsavable. Have you seen it yet?
I've seen the first angle of it. I want to see it from behind because I've got a feeling that he's hit it and it's come from out to in.
Oh yeah, no, it's
so
phenomenal.
he's starting it with a full, the arms folded, and there's a bunch of little dances as well. And everyone wants to see the replay, but of course, the cameraman's thinking, I'm not going off those dances, man.
The dancing's another minute away, so I have to actually wrap up because we're out of time. But you will see this is just a thing of beauty. So France 3-1. Pat Nevin, thank you.
An absolute pleasure.
Cheers. Pat Nevin there with us. 75 minutes on the clock. France 3, Switzerland 1. Football on Off the Ball is with Paddy Power Save Our Game, donating €10,000 to Irish football for every goal England scored at the Euros. Last Tuesday's goal from Raheem Sterling brought the total to 20,000 for Irish football so far. With thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. So France 3-1 up. We're talking England-Germany next.